Thank you for stopping by at the Movie Marquee. Our podcast reviews well-known movies and contains spoilers. The podcast may contain mature subject matter and mature language. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy the show.
Quiet on set. Places, everybody. And action.
Welcome to the second feature of our Cameron Crowe double feature. If you missed it, we earlier reviewed Almost Famous. This time around, we are taking a look at Jerry Maguire. With me is Eric.
Hey, did you know the human head weighs 8 pounds?
And Ted.
Show me the money.
And I'm Ken, and these guys complete me. But before we dig into Jerry Maguire, what have you been watching recently that we should be watching or staying away from? Eric.
Well, let's see. Last week, Ken, I watched Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood starring Tom Hanks. Me and my wife both watched it, and it was a very good movie. Tom Hanks, as always, very good in it. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, Ted.
I've been watching on demand through HBO Max. I've been watching the series The Plot Against America, which is very good, and it has been nominated for some Emmys. But I highly recommend it.
Awesome. I heard your wife has a plot against our podcast. Kind of goes with
That's only a rumor.
All right.
Vicious rumor indeed.
I've been watching Psych, show from the mid-2000s, early 2010s, and I've been really enjoying it. I'm in the 7th season and looking forward to finishing it off and watching the TV movies. So,
I'm impressed it went 7 seasons.
It went 8.
Wow.
And if you download the Peacock, they have a Psych movie out.
Now that we know what we've been watching recently, let's get the skinny on Jerry Maguire.
All right. Jerry Maguire, this bad boy, if you remember, was released in December 1996. It's one of Cameron Crowe's great movies starring Tom Cruise, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Renee Zellweger. The film was a financial success. This thing brought in $273 million worldwide and only had a budget of $50 million. Crazy. The film was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Tom Cruise. Of course, Cuba Gooding Jr. wins the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. We can debate that later. The film was also nominated for 3 Golden Globes, with Tom Cruise winning Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, and 3 SAG Awards, with Cuba Gooding Jr. again winning Best Supporting Actor. It was the 9th highest grossing film in 1996, and maybe that helped. That's the skinny on Jerry Maguire.
What were your thoughts when this came out? Were you excited to see it, or did you wait till down the road till you saw it?
Ken, I remember this movie. I remember the trailers coming out in the fall, and I was really excited to see it. I was dating a girl at the time who also was a big Tom Cruise fan. So at that time in my life, I probably went to the movies 12, 15 times a year. This is one of the movies. I didn't see it opening weekend, but I did see it in early 97, and it was pretty packed at the time, and I loved it.
I would have been a senior in high school, so it was about that time when I started to see all of the movies nominated for Best Picture, and so when this was nominated for Best Picture, I would have went and saw this particular movie then. I do remember seeing it, and it was really a good movie. I don't know if it was necessarily Best Picture worthy, but we can get into that later.
I would agree. There was a lot of great pictures nominated that year.
Yeah, there were.
I was pretty much not interested in watching this movie only because of the Bruce Springsteen Secret Garden song. It cried out chick flick, and I was in my mid-20s at this particular time, at 24. I had no desire to watch a romance. It wasn't until Cuba Gooding Jr. won for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars, and you had Billy Crystal making fun of Jerry Maguire at the Oscars that was like, oh, I got to see this. This looks like it would be fun to watch. So I didn't watch it until it came out on video much later. It might have actually even been on cable before I first saw it.
Oh, wow.
Ken going to the video store to get his copy of VHS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
go to Blockbuster and reserve it.
Can you show me where Jerry Maguire is?
Sorry, sir, we're all out.
Yeah. Put your
Um,
name on a list and wait and call you.
Yeah, back in the day with the Blockbuster video, you had like 50 copies of that movie and they were all gone.
Yeah, 50 boxes.
Yeah.
Eric, what did the critics have to say about this movie?
Critics were ultimately positive about it. Rotten Tomatoes gave it certified fresh at 83, which is pretty high for them. Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars, 3 out of 5. He had a few negative things to say about it. Ultimately, he thought it was a pretty good movie, but he did think that it was a little long. Plots were drawn out. The one thing I will say that Roger Ebert did say that caught my attention was he believed that the movie should have drawn more on the Cuba Gooding Jr. character versus Tom Cruise's character. He thought it mixed a little bit more in that. Some of the other reviews, Entertainment Weekly said it's brashly engaging. The New York Times said Jerry Maguire is loaded with them bright, funny, tender encounters between characters who seem so winningly warm and real. And Newsweek said, what sets Jerry Maguire above any other romantic comedy this year is Crowe's writing. He captures the venal, high-stakes world of pro sports with deadly wit and an ex-journalist's sense of detail.
Before we go to the good, the bad, and the ugly, let's go with the plot. Ted, take it away.
The movie Jerry Maguire tells the story of an egocentric sports agent, Jerry Maguire. When we meet Jerry, it appears that he has everything he would ever want: a fiancé, an amazing job, and many acquaintances that he calls friends. When Jerry witnesses the after effects of a concussion of one of his clients, Jerry must confront the realization that he may have lost his humanity. A shaken Jerry then writes a manifesto that says that the industry in which he works should be more about the human side of their clients and not the money side of their clients. He then distributes the manifesto to an entire convention of sports agents. Armed with his manifesto, the company Jerry works for fires him. There is then a mad dash to secure Jerry's clients. Jerry continually fails to secure his clients until he gets Rod Tidwell on the phone. Rod Tidwell is a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, and Rod believes he is the next Jerry Rice. Jerry finally gets Rod to agree to keep him on as his agent. Because of the long phone call, Jerry misses out on every other client he has. As Jerry leaves the office for the last time, he makes a scene and invites anyone to follow him to his new company. At first, no one speaks up until Dorothy Boyd steps up and agrees to follow him. Dorothy is a widowed accountant with a young son whom Jerry met after the convention in the airport when she could not find her son. Dorothy, based off of the manifesto and their chance encounter, believes in Jerry. Jerry and Dorothy have one ray of hope for their new company: Frank Cushman. Frank Cushman is going to be the #1 draft pick in the NFL draft. He is a quarterback with a golden arm that would set Jerry and Dorothy's company up financially for years to come. Jerry travels to Cushman's house to meet with Frank and his father to secure Jerry's standing as Cushman's agent. Jerry believes that he has secured Cushman. Jerry also uses the draft then and the media buzz around it to reintroduce Rod to the media to try to leverage the Cardinals into a longer, more lucrative contract. Jerry learns while in the Cushman suite that the man who fired him, Bob Sugar, has secured Cushman as a client, undercutting Jerry and leaving him without his most lucrative client. A devastated Jerry seeks comfort from his fiancée, who proceeds to dump him. Jerry now must concentrate on getting Rod the long-term deal with the Cardinals that Rod wants. Dorothy and Jerry have started dating. They have become close personally. Dorothy understands that Jerry is broke and there will be no quick financial answer, so she decides that she must move to San Diego to provide a better life for her son. Jerry, feeling that he cannot lose another person in his life, combined with seeing how happy Rod and his wife are, asks Dorothy to marry him. She agrees because she has been in love with him since she first read his manifesto and met him at the airport. During the NFL season, Rod takes risks with his body, but the Cardinals are having a great season and are poised to make the playoffs. At home, though, Dorothy has come to realize that Jerry did not ask her to marry him for the right reasons. She asked Jerry for a divorce. Jerry, now alone again, must face the future without Dorothy. The Cardinals season comes down to a Monday Night Football game against the Dallas Cowboys. With so much on the line in front of the Monday Night Football audience, there is real pressure on Rod to make a statement and have a big game. With the game on the line, Rod goes up and catches a ball for an apparent touchdown in the win. Rod takes a huge hit and is knocked unconscious. A desperate Jerry races to the end zone to check on his client, but Jerry realizes in that moment that Rod is not just a client. Rod is his friend. After many desperate minutes, Rod comes to and remarkably is okay, providing relief to Rod's family and to Jerry. After the game, Rod and Jerry embrace not as agent and client, but as friends. And Jerry realizes in this moment does love Dorothy and wants to be with her. Jerry makes a desperate run to get to Dorothy's house. When Jerry walks in the living room at Dorothy's house, he interrupts Dorothy's sister and her friends and says he is not looking for Dorothy. He's looking for his wife. He tells Dorothy about Rod in the game, but says it all doesn't mean anything if they are not together. Dorothy embraces him, and they reunite. The movie ends with Rod on national TV, and Rod is told that he has gotten a huge contract offer from the Cardinals. Jerry and Rod have done it. Dorothy, Jerry, and Dorothy's son come upon a baseball field. A ball from the field lands at their feet, and Dorothy's son picks up the ball and throws the ball over the heads of the kids playing baseball. This prompts Jerry to wonder if Ray could be a baseball player, and they all walk off laughing.
Okay, so Ted gave us the plot. What do you guys think about the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Well, a few bad things come to mind, unfortunately, when I watch Jerry Maguire. And one of the things is that I do not believe that the movie holds up over time versus other movies of that era. It does get a little outdated with some of the scenes and stuff. But the one thing that really sticks in my mind about this when I'm talking about bad things, things that I really don't care for or care about in Jerry Maguire, is this is more of a romantic bro chick comedy, if you will. I think this movie could have been manned up a lot more. I think they could have thrown in a lot more rock and roll, fast-paced music, better football scenes, really made this more of a Jerry Maguire football movie, but they did go the chick route, which I understand. You know, you're coming off of other Cameron Crowe movies. You know, you're coming off of Say Anything, which was a big chick flick. This one, I think, kind of follows that a little bit. But I wanted to see this more of a football, hardcore, in-your-face kind of action movie. And the fact that it was more of a chick flick is one of the things that's haunted me over time. The good things about the movie is I thought the cast that they chose was second to none perfect. I think Tom Cruise as Jerry Maguire was a perfect choice. I honestly can't imagine anyone else in that position. I know other people were chosen prior to him. Tom Hanks comes to mind. Renee Zellweger, I thought, did a great job. She was just kind of blooming at that time as an actress. Cuba Gooding Jr. as Rod Tidwell, I thought, was the perfect kind of in-your-face, attitude-driven football player, stereotype. Everything you think of a wide receiver for an NFL team, I think he played phenomenal.
I'm disagreeing with you, though, on the fact that this movie doesn't hold up well. I think it holds up extremely well. And here's the reasons why. Concussions. We are talking about concussions here in 2020. We weren't talking about concussions back in 1996. You look at him writing his mission statement on his laptop. You know, people are writing things and producing things now on laptops like they never have before. I think it holds up extremely well. You look at the sport agent of today, they're still the same way. They're about as many clients and getting their clients as much money as possible. And I forget his name. He doesn't work well with the Chicago White Sox. Scott Boras. We have people like Bob Sugar out there. His name is Scott Boras. So I think it holds up very well.
I think it does hold up well. I do, unfortunately, have to disagree a little bit with you on that, Eric. I think Ken made a really good point with the concussion aspect. When you're looking at concussions, and that really is a theme, not just in the beginning of the movie, where Jerry has to confront a hockey player, nevertheless, that's had a concussion. It's a concern the rest of the movie with Rod. And that's really forward thinking. But here's an idea as far, Ken, as you were saying, about the sports agent. This movie might have been the catalyst for sports agents becoming famous. Because really, before that, did we even know who Lee Steinberg was?
That's a good point. No, we didn't.
Or did we know who Drew Rosenhaus was? And I mean, it's guys like that. Drew Rosenhaus is the prototype for Bob Sugar, Jerry's main rival. Cameron did a really good job shadowing sports agent lifestyle to get set into this movie. I mean, I knew who Lee Steinberg was because I was a Troy Aikman fan in the 90s, and Troy was represented by Lee Steinberg. So I had heard his name based off of when Troy Aikman was getting a new contract, but they weren't on ESPN all the time before Jerry Maguire. And I think that in itself has changed how people look at not only sports figures, but their agents. I know, Ken, you had mentioned Scott Boras, But Jerry Maguire might be the reason that Scott Boras has written opinion columns in some of the most major newspapers in America about the state of sports. Without Jerry Maguire, does somebody like that come to the forefront? That's just a thought.
I will say that Jerry Maguire definitely set the pinnacle forward for sports agent movies. I can't even think of one prior to that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Has there been one since?
The agent has been in another movie, but never at the forefront like Jerry Maguire.
Can you improve on Jerry Maguire? It is a fabulous movie about sports agents.
Yes, it is, but it's also probably 50% sports agent and 50% relational between him and Rod Tidwell and him and Dorothy Boyd. I thought they could have went a little bit more on the sports agent avenue as to plot of the movie, kind of maybe a little bit more backstory on his initial meetings with Rod Tidwell. How did he get him as a client? Maybe a little bit more of how the sports agent works in the industry.
But if you do that, you can't have the romantic part in it. It has to be two separate movies then, because Jerry Maguire and Rod Tidwell can hold their own movie by themselves. Part of Jerry and Dorothy's story is rushed because there is a better story, Jerry and Rod.
They do devote a lot of time to the Dorothy and Jerry relationship, but I think we might be missing part of what the movie is. And the movie is the evolution of a person who is egocentric and is all about himself. It's the story of him then having to learn to open up and let other people in. It just so happens he's in a business where that is not allowed, essentially.
It's kind of like the mafia. Al Pacino's character in Godfather 3, every time I try to get back out, they pull me back in. Kind of like that, because in the beginning of this movie, he's looking at a way of becoming a different person. He talks about becoming his father's son again. And throughout the movie, he wants to be in love. He doesn't want to just have a hot girlfriend. He wants to be that agent that's for his players. And by the time this is all said and done, he is that guy that he talks about in his mission statement, going to games of his players. And he's allowing someone like Dorothy to come in and change his life, be part of his life. What's the beginning of the movie is fulfilled at the end. I just think the struggle between him and Dorothy is kind of a little bit rushed. And that's because the first half of this movie is the sports agent movie.
Ken, not to give props where props aren't due, but as we were earlier going through some of the critics' reviews, I am reminded of a line here by the great Roger Ebert, who gave this movie 3 stars. But in his review, his last sentence, this is how he ended it. He goes, "Finally, the movie is about transformation, about 2 men who learn how to value something more important than money, and about 2 women who always knew."
That's extremely prescient.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't expect anything less from Roger Ebert. And I agree, and that's one of the points I was going to make. I think that the Jerry-Rod relationship is more important than the Jerry-Dorothy relationship. But I think he needs them both to reach the end of the movie and become a whole person. Because at the beginning of the movie, he's a broken person. Gets put back together again through the movie. But
yes, he's very envious of Rod's marriage, obviously.
Right.
Which pushes him into the marriage with Dorothy, which ultimately fails, but then comes back together.
But Rod has to show him how to be a friend. Rod shows him how he needs to open up on a different level. And I think it's funny, too, because they do bring it up at one point in the movie, Jerry and Rod, where they do acknowledge the fact that they are kind of the yin and the yang, where Jerry has his professional life pretty much together, has no personal life. And Rod is trying to get the professional life together. But on the personal side, he is the ultimate father and husband and brother. You never really get that closeness of Jerry and Dorothy that you do with Rod and Jerry. I think part of what you're saying, Eric, is I agree. They could have probably have cut some of the Dorothy Jerry stuff because Jerry and Rod is the actual catalyst of the movie.
I would say this, Ted. You do need the Dorothy character because the Dorothy character is what allows that conversation between Jerry and Rod to happen, because
True.
Jerry asked Rod for his advice. And that's where the friendship starts to blossom, is sharing each other's desires. Jerry is sharing with him his relationship with Dorothy, and then that allows Jerry to talk to Rod about the Quan and the Show Me the Money. And he gets him to see that there's more to football than making money. Without the Dorothy character, I don't think you can have that blossoming relationship between Rod and Jerry.
I agree, and I think she's needed as the catalyst, just like Regina King's character as Rod's wife is a catalyst as well. That's where I agree with Roger Ebert there, that the two women they're the catalysts of the movie.
Not only are they the catalysts, they are the stars of this movie, I think. You just brought up Regina King, and if I am to take one person in the supporting cast and say, wow, it's Regina King. I mean, the way that she plays off of Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, she steals the scene every time she's in it. Either she's talking with Jerry about Rod's contract, or she's talking to Rod, you're going to play out the stupid contract. She is stealing every scene that she's in from the leads.
That's very true. What I would say is, going back to the scene that we were talking about, I don't know what you guys think, but I think that scene where Jerry and Rod are discussing that and they really show the yin and the yang, I think that's the most pivotal scene of the movie. That's where the movie reaches its high point as far as the writing goes. But I totally agree with Regina King being the focus of and the rest of the characters in the movie. She is very underrated. She has been underrated for a long time. Luckily, now, based off of The Watchmen on HBO, she's kind of getting the due that's been come to her for a long time. She would really be the only other actor in the movie that is really an interesting character, in my opinion.
I'm going to disagree with you because I think all the characters are interesting. And you have superb performances here by Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr. And for me, Renee Zellweger also is the other actress here that just steals the show. The way that she plays the mother figure to Ray, I believed her as being a single mother, that her world revolves around Ray, or has been revolving around Ray. And now she's finally getting to see that there might be romance out there while she's a mom. She's just amazing. I mean, you look at her and how her character and Ray's character, I believe that they're a mother and son relationship there. I believe it.
All right, let me throw this out there to you. We're bringing up Ray Boyd, Jonathan Lipnicki. All right. Initially on in the movie, obviously, Ray Boyd, the little kid, adorable kid with the big glasses, obviously. That's her son. That's her most important thing in life. All right.
He's an annoying kid, by the way.
Annoying kid, but for the movie, I think he played it really well. But yes, he was annoying, but it worked.
The human head weighs 8 pounds.
That's right. Yes, the human head. Did you know the human head weighs 8 pounds? Great line. I love to quote it all the time, and people hate it. That's fine.
And he's wrong. It's 11 pounds.
Doesn't matter. He's 8 years old or however old he is. So the one thing that I felt during this movie, the relationship between Dorothy and Jerry was pivotal on the relationship between Ray and Jerry. She was almost falling in love with Jerry Maguire as a surrogate father figure, if you will. Several scenes in the movie, she said that Ray has never, warmed up to a man like that before. And obviously her husband died for the movie. So I think her relationship was pivotal with Jerry Maguire based on the relationship between Jerry Maguire and Ray.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for a young actor, he's not that bad.
He's not that good either.
No, but I mean, you got to cut a kid a little bit of slack.
I'll come slack now because you say he's an MMA fighter. I'm not going to go too far with it because I don't want my butt kicked.
Well, think about the parenting that she did. I mean, a kid of that age generally is going to be disobedient, mouthy, arrogant, temper tantrums. The kid in every scene was just aw shucks, adorable, always abiding by what his mom said. And even when he wasn't, even when he was staying up late or something, it was just so, over the top cute.
He ran away though, and they found him on that luggage conveyor belt.
Yeah, waving his little hand going, hey, come on. But that set up the scene for the start of the relationship between those two.
Right.
one of my bads, is the length of this film. I think it's something like 2 hours and 20 minutes. And there are some things that I don't understand why they need to be in this movie. Why do you need the nanny? I don't feel there's any reason for this nanny. Take him out completely and it would still be the same film. You could have her sister watch the kid and there'd be an issue with her working and her watching the kid and helping her sister out. Why do you need to bring in a nanny? There's just no reason for it.
I agree with you. The scenes that he shares could go by the wayside.
They could be eliminated very easily. Yeah, I would agree with that too.
I think it was meant to be more comic relief, and I think in that sense it probably fell a little short because I didn't find him very funny.
No.
The one thing that you did bring up earlier, Eric, was the music. I like the music in this movie. And of course, the music was pretty much all chosen or scored by Nancy Wilson, who is Cameron Crowe's wife at the time. I think she chose a lot of good music for the movie. I think it's a high point of the movie.
She did. I mean, founding member of Heart, you can't go wrong.
Right.
I thought the instrumentals sounded really good. You need to have a great instrumental with a movie. I would agree with Ken that Bruce Springsteen's song in this, not real good.
I'm not a big fan of that particular Springsteen song.
Secret Garden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not his best by any stretch of the imagination. But there are other points in the movie where I think the music is used really well to enhance the mood. It just sticks out to me. Like
The Walk.
Yeah.
Tidwell's Walk.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that is one of my favorite scenes, though, is the walk at the party before the NFL draft. I just love that scene where they're walking. He's interviewing with radio host. It's cool. It's cool to see the process, and I loved it.
And I thought
that's what I wanted to see more of. I wanted to see more of that process.
I loved it when Rod said, well, let's do that again. Yeah, let's do that again because it was cool.
And as far as the music goes, too, I think the choice of the song Mother, Mother was sung originally by Otis Redding, but it's sung by Cuba Gooding Jr. at Jerry's wedding. That was a really poignant song, especially for Rod, and it shows how tenuous. You see that Jerry's not really on board with this whole marriage idea, and it shows how into the marriage that Rod is with his wife.
Funny thing about that song, I love Marcy's reaction to when Rod's singing that song.
Exactly.
She's like, get me out of here.
As only a loving wife would do.
What did you think, Ted, some of the good, bad, and ugly were?
I think I said most of the stuff that was good. As far as bad, I agree with Ken. The length of the movie, there are scenes that could have been cut. I probably could have done without the Cushman scenes as well, except for the fact that Jerry gets dumped by Cushman. Like when Jerry goes to Cushman's house, I think it's unnecessary drama where he goes there and my word is, oh, I could have done without that.
That could have been done with a phone call.
Exactly. I'm not a big fan of the racial undertone when Frank's dad dismisses Jerry. I think that is a little unnecessary. I understand.
You were downstairs with that black fella.
Yeah, I could have done without that for sure. That's unnecessary in this movie. I get it. He's from the South. He's from Texas. But that's a real generalization. And I think that something like that needs to be handled in a better fashion. It seemed ham-handed or ham-fisted. It just seemed out of place.
That's an uncredited role.
We can say it was played by Beau Bridges.
Right.
Bridges, yeah.
And I have no idea if that is why he wanted to be uncredited. But yes, he is uncredited in that role. That could have definitely played a factor in the reason why he's remains uncredited.
I'd rather see Jerry O'Connell be uncredited because he doesn't bring anything to the table to this movie, though he's billed 4th or 5th on the billing chart here. He says only maybe 3 or 4 lines throughout the whole film. I mean,
yeah, he was a hot prospect in 96, 95, 96. He was out there on television all over the place.
He was a known commodity.
But you could have actually had this part played just by the father. You could have had Cush not even be in it at all. Maybe just pictures of Cush and got away with it because there is nothing, and I repeat, nothing that he brings to this movie. And that could have saved more time. We need to cut some scenes here. There's no reason to have the airplane ride at all. We could be introduced to Dorothy and her son at the airport where she's lost him.
It's very true, but it's also one of the things of part of Cameron's movies. There's always an airport scene.
Well, he needs to stop that.
But in the movie, like we just watched previously with Almost Famous, a pretty pivotal point in the movie.
This is a completely different movie. It's a romantic comedy or dramedy or whatever you want, a romantic dramedy, whatever you want to call this. It doesn't need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's fine at an hour and maybe 50 minutes.
It's more of a say anything style movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I love say anything. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, definitely. There isn't much of Cameron Crowe's catalog that I don't like. But the whole racial undertone of that point of the movie, to me, it needs more nuance. It's not handled really well, and I could have just done without that. So if there's one big sticking point with me, it would probably be that, because I think it is kind of ugly. As far as just lukewarm bad, I don't think that there's a whole lot of just bad. I think overall it's a good movie. I enjoy it. Even the critiques that I've mentioned these aren't things that are going to tip the movie over on its side for me and be bad, over to the bad. But as far as good, how can you not like Cuba Gooding Jr. with Tom Cruise? And like you said, Ken, too, with Renee Zellweger. They do a really good job in this movie. And it is a very good supporting cast. Bonnie Hunt and Regina King, they're both really good actors. And I know Ken may not really care for Jonathan Lipnicki, but I'm willing to give him a little bit more of a pass because he was like 5. So
personally, I don't care for Jay Moore as an actor, but in this movie as Bob Sugar, I think he took the cake.
He plays a guy that you really want to punch in the face.
He plays an asshole really good.
He's enjoying firing him. He's like sitting
yeah.
there with a smirk on his face, and he's like, you should say something. This is real. Got the smirk on his face. He's got the smirk on throughout the whole process. Jerry is flipping out, and he's just eating a sandwich.
Maybe this is a testament to Jay Moore. I've never been a fan of his work, but maybe this is a testament to it. I have read his book. He's not that character. So he is truly acting in the role of Bob Sugar. And he does. He plays it very well. And I enjoy hating his character.
This character is also a cartoon character, along with Jerry's girlfriend.
To a certain extent.
I mean, it's over the top, just like Jerry's girlfriend.
I don't think it's over the top. I don't think Jerry's girlfriend is over the top.
Oh, you don't think it's over the top right off the bat where, she's like having sex with him and then says,
not at all.
And says, you know what? If you want to be with another woman, I could do that.
Not at all. Not at all. Because think of the type of women that Jerry Maguire's dating.
Yeah.
Think about the bachelor party with all the women in the video. That's the type of women he's dating.
There's the other problem I have with this movie. The bachelor party. The video doesn't make sense. You're going to play a video where everybody's just ripping on him and saying he can't be alone.
It's a roast.
I'll stop you right there. I think that is key.
Yeah.
In building how the person that Jerry was and how far he has to go to get to the end of his journey. Because this is Jerry's journey as a person. And that really shows how far he needs to come to complete his character arc.
I don't know. It just seems kind of weird the way the video is done. It's one thing. Maybe everybody's talking at the bachelor party behind his back about how he always has to be with somebody. He can't be alone. I think that works out better than watching a video of a bunch of women talking about how he can't be alone. And it's probably produced by his fiance. The video for me just doesn't work.
No, I disagree. I think the video is pivotal.
Because Dorothy even brings up that she saw it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is something that was shared. In all honesty, it was probably made by Jerry's friend, who is the director, who is directing Rod's waterbed commercial or car commercial, where he's dressed up and he's playing with he has to act with the camel.
Yeah.
And you're probably right, but if his fiance here is watching this video and she's watching about these other girls who basically are saying that he's probably only with you because he can't be alone, it just for me doesn't play well.
But they were never in love. It is obvious that those two were never in love. It was a business arrangement, a wedding, fiance, business arrangement relationship.
They do take it personally because when he does break up with her because of how she reacts to him losing Kush, she beats the crap out of him. I mean,
he had a backbone. He stood up to her. There was no emotion.
Yeah.
There was no
emotion.
She had
a moment there where she seemed sad, but then, like I said,
she was beating her
up like Mike Tyson and Michael.
Right. No, a business relationship. That's all it is.
And we'll have to point out that this has been made a little after Kelly Preston just recently died of cancer. But she is fun in this movie. I mean, I do think she's a cartoon character. She plays it with energy, and I appreciate her energy that she brings to the character.
Yeah.
I agree.
We talked about this earlier, and we should bring it back up. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s Oscar-winning performance. Is it an Oscar-winning performance?
Maybe in a different year.
Yeah. It is a good performance. It's a pivotal performance of the movie. So if you're going based off just of the pivotal performance of the movie, it's definitely worthy of a nomination. Where I have a problem of him winning, you look at some of the other nominees that were nominated that year. And the fact that Edward Norton didn't win for Primal Fear, that's a little sad.
Favored to win that, too.
He would have had to have been.
Yes.
I can't imagine. As much as Richard Gere is in Primal Fear is Edward Norton's movie. And he's phenomenal in that movie.
The performances, in my opinion, of Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s, they're on their way down now. Tom Cruise is still a megastar, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Tom Cruise, at least in an acting performance, is not at this level. And I think Cuba Gooding Jr. has slid really bad since Jerry Maguire.
I'll agree with you with Cuba Gooding Jr. He made some questionable decisions.
Questionable movies.
Boat Trip is not a good choice.
Radio wasn't not bad.
Do you feel like he went too far in that role and overacted in Radio? I would say he did.
Radio took place in what, the 70s, 60s?
Something like It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Different era. Totally different. Ed Harris, different era.
Yeah, and I disagree with you, Ken, about Tom Cruise. If you look at some of the movies that he's made since,
they're all action films, pretty much.
Well, I wouldn't call Eyes Wide Shut an action movie. I thought he was brilliant in that movie.
How about The Last Samurai?
Last Samurai, and he was nominated for an Academy Award for Magnolia.
Yes.
I don't care necessarily for the movie, but he was nominated for it.
I like him in the Jack Reacher movies. I know they're a little...
and he also rejoined Cameron Crowe for Vanilla Sky.
Which is not a very good movie either.
That's a matter of opinion.
It's a good opinion.
I don't mind Vanilla Sky. And
I liked him in American Made.
Yeah, that's another really good movie where he probably should have been nominated for an Academy Award.
Tom Cruise is still a mega star. He had A Few Good Men before this movie. He was on a roll going into Jerry Maguire. I just feel now he is Tom Cruise, the action star, with the Reacher movies, with the Mission Impossible movies. He has now become basically an action figure. I think he's more versatile than people give him credit for. Born on the 4th of July is a really, really good movie. What the slide is nowhere near Cuba Gooding Jr. is. He barely.
Obviously, if we're talking about characters, Renee Zellweger's career is just skyrocketing.
It's because of this movie that she's able to do Bridget Jones's Diary.
Mm-hmm.
Because, she shows here in this movie that she can carry the female lead in a movie. She's really good. And she was really good in Judy, which she won the Academy Award for.
And before this movie, I only knew her from Empire Records, which I really enjoyed. But
seriously, you didn't remember Chicago and Cold Mountain?
That was
Chicago. That was all after this. She was pretty much broke.
Before, she wasn't in anything before. Yeah.
Well, Empire Records, which I enjoyed a lot, but it was a part that you could have cast anybody in that role in Empire Records, and it would have been the same thing.
Obviously, she had a bit, not really a bit part, but one of the gal pals in Dazed and Confused.
With Matthew McConaughey in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You're the only person that ever saw that.
Yeah. Why would you bring that up?
Because this is a podcast and you're supposed to bring up things that are very interesting.
Well,
Next generation.
It's not very interesting.
As a movie, it's not.
It is horrid.
Horrific.
It's an hour of my life I'll never get back.
The thing that I hated most about Jerry Maguire was I think it had more potential to be more of a sports-related kind of dude-man movie than it did a chick flick, and it kind of flowed down the chick flick road.
So, Eric, would you have rather it been more towards the Any Given Sunday type of a movie?
Yes. I mean, that's a great movie. I would have liked it to have been more towards that route. Yes, that's a good scenario. Yeah.
But you do lose part of your audience.
Very big chunk of your audience, and you change a majority of the plot of the movie. I understand that.
Right.
We'll talk about ugly. This is kind of part of my personality.
Ugly?
I don't like the sex scene that's right after the airport scene. For me, there's no purpose of having that scene in the movie. She could talk about wanting to be with another woman for him and not even bring in the sex stuff. Show us all that she's kind of crazy little character. As I stated in the past, unnecessary nudity in a movie.
I think that scene, I believe it showed her dominance in that relationship.
Yeah, you really do kind of need that. Like you had said before, it being a transactional relationship, it really shows that there's no intimacy there.
None.
It's very transactional.
Very mechanical, very
right.
Get it done.
And it shows how the two of them confuse this honesty as intimacy.
Yeah.
And it's not. And it shows how broken kind of the Jerry is as well.
That is a great
disagree
point.
with you too,
but they
Ken.
bring this up over and over again in the movie. So why do you have to keep on bringing it up over and over and over and over and over again? You bring it up during the video. You bring it up when he loses his clients and she's like, "You are not a loser." It's like, who are you calling? What do you mean a loser? It's brought up over and over and over again. So you don't need the sex scene here because you have repeatedly shown that she is in it for like the business aspect of a relationship.
It's one more factor that drives it home.
I think it's important.
It takes a certain audience away from your movie.
Okay, it doesn't have to be as gratuitous
Yes.
as maybe it was, but I do think that it does show dominance. So you can show the act without showing nudity, but I think the positioning does show dominance, and I think that is important.
Well, they were definitely in a position.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and that goes to exactly what Eric's talking about.
Yeah.
It really shows who is the driving force of that relationship and why it's there. I disagree with you, Ken. I'm not for gratuitous nudity in a movie, but in certain circumstances, and I think this scene needs to be there. And I'm not going to say unfortunately because I believe it needs to be there.
Errors and omissions. One of my favorite things to talk about movies, all the stupid little mistakes that they make and they don't catch on the final draft of it. And this movie has plenty of them. So we'll kick it off here in the scene when Jerry arrives at the top star's house to make sure he's still staying with him. He arrives in an Eagle Vision car, but later leaves in a Pontiac Grand Prix. I did catch that one.
Interesting.
Yeah. In the play before the final touchdown play, the announcer says it's now second and whatever, but the down marker in the background is set to first down. I know this is one that Ken's brought up before. When Tidwell gets the wind knocked out of him at the Christmas Eve game and he's lying in the end zone, he's clutching the ball to his chest. When the camera pans out to a distance shot, his arm is outreached and the ball is lying off to the side. When the camera comes back in for a close-up, it's clutched to his chest again.
That's
you guys remember that?
Yeah, that's interesting.
It actually switches hands, I believe, too.
I believe so, yeah.
Little continuity error.
After they return from their date on the porch, Jerry ties Dorothy's dress. A couple seconds later, the knot is entirely different. These are all great things to, next time you watch it, you can go back and look. In the scene where Jerry is leaving the agency after being fired, Jay Moore's character, Bob Sugar, is visible behind Jerry when Jerry is near the fish tank. Moments later, Sugar is no longer in the same position. The next shot from that angle, Sugar is back again. This is one I'm going to look at next time I watch the movie. Jerry receives a fax containing Rod's contract. I love it, a fax. Everyone is angry at how small a salary it is. But Marcy gives Rod a lecture, and everything works out. When Marcy is talking, you can see the hands of one of the crew members in the glass of a poster in the background.
Wow, interesting.
I'll do a few more here. When Jerry and Dorothy are standing out by the U-Haul truck, Dorothy walks to the front of the truck, and Jerry takes a step to the spot where Dorothy was standing. He is still moving, but then there is a close-up of him, and he is not moving.
There's that deleted scene where he actually jumps into the truck and runs her down.
Yeah.
Sure. It's a completely different movie now.
It's a wholly different, but it goes back to the movie that you guys want. The Rod and Jerry movie, all of a sudden, where Rod visits Jerry in prison. So.
All right,
Changes
I'll do one
the whole
more
tone
here.
of the movie.
It does. Let's see here. I'll do one more. During the scene in which Jerry and Avery break up, one of my favorites, we see him comforting her right before she punches him. When the shot is from behind him, you can see that he is holding her and stroking her face with his right hand. As the camera switches angle to face him, his hands are now at his sides.
It's real interesting how
much time people have.
And how much time people have, and also how continuity error like that can get into the final cut of a movie. But I don't know, none of those things really take anything out of the movie. Maybe I just watch movies differently.
They're all minor. There's no errors in this movie that you look at and go, what the hell? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The one that didn't bother me was he walks out with a box out of his office of stuff. By the time he goes into the elevator and leaves, he doesn't have that box. So he left the box behind. And as far as the car goes, maybe he upgraded when he re-signed Cush, he was able to leave with a different car. But the one that I have an issue with is he has Marcy's character in his office. They're talking about Rod's contract. She's late for her flight. And Sugar comes in and says, hey, are we on for lunch? Yeah. So they talk. And as soon as he leaves, Marcy goes with Sugar for lunch, comes back, gets on the phone calls, and he's talking to Rod. And Marcy's already back in Phoenix. And they look like they're having breakfast. For me, it just seems like she had to go to the airport. She had to get on the plane. She had to get off the plane. That takes time. Even a small flight takes hours for all that to happen. And it just seemed like it happened in a very short time. Here's the other thing that bugs me. At the end of the movie, you have the Monday Night Football game. And what time does Monday Night Football usually end? About 10:30, 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Pacific time, so it's a little earlier.
But he hops on a plane to get back to Dorothy. And when he gets back, they're having the divorcee meeting.
Yeah.
How late does divorced women get together and have meeting? It's got to be 1 o'clock in the morning at this particular time, right?
Well, they hate men. Why not?
That is more egregious, I think, than the Marcy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's more
because we never really know where SMI's corporate office is. I would assume that it's in Los Angeles based off of the time, and it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that she could have made it from LA to Phoenix. So I would imagine that that's kind of like a Chicago to St. Louis type of flight.
It's an hour flight, hour and a half tops.
If that.
But you still have to get to the airport, out of the airport, get home, all that good stuff.
True, but we're talking about 96. It wasn't as strict as it is now. And we also don't know because SMI could have flown her privately to get to Jerry and back home. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And we really don't see what Rod's cooking for his son. I kind of think that he was making a grilled cheese sandwich.
I don't know. It looked like breakfast to me, but
it did look like breakfast. But
I think the ending, though, is, like you said, much worse because regardless of what time, it's in Phoenix. The game's in Phoenix. If they live in California, it's going to take them at least a couple of hours, as you just said.
Right.
So the game ends around 10:30. Plus, there was interviews after the game, so it's probably 11:30 by the time he gets to the airport, even, and then he has to.
Well,
probably
Phoenix,
didn't have a ticket. He didn't
Phoenix
probably
doesn't.
For 11:30.
Phoenix and LA are.
Well, Arizona doesn't recognize daylight savings time. So half the year it's on Pacific and Mountain time.
And here's the other thing. Do you think that she would have been watching the game and interested in what's happening with the game because it affected her life still? I would think that she would still be keeping her eye on the game, that it wouldn't be a surprise what happened at the game.
Yeah, her marriage is over. She's emotional.
Right.
I mean.
I think you're picking nits here.
I'm picking nits maybe there, but I'm not picking nits when it comes to what time he shows up and the women are all still there.
That's true, but you have to remember they are on the West Coast, so the game probably would have gotten over somewhere around 9 o'clock. He would have probably been coming into the house at about 11:30. I agree with you. It's a little bit of a stretch there. I see where that could be an issue. I think with any movie, you have to suspend a little bit of disbelief. No movie is going to be 100% perfect. And to hold it to that high of a standard, personally, it didn't take me out of the movie. I'm able to kind of go with the flow. But I'm also a different type of movie watcher. I allow myself to get into the story. And
I guess it all depends on the kind of movie it is. If it's a movie like a Sherlock Holmes, I'm going to nitpick it because you're relying on challenging your viewers to think. This is not a thinking movie. This is a happy, all shucks type of movie where you're enjoying enjoying the love story, or are you enjoying the relationship between Rod and Jerry, which could also be a love story?
Bromance.
A bromance. Another interesting fact is Cameron Crowe's mother is one of the women in the divorcee group.
Let's talk about famous people that are in this movie. We got a whole slew of them.
Yeah, another Cameron Crowe trademark.
Right.
The famous people in the movie. You had Glenn Fry as the general manager of the Cardinals. That's probably the biggest one. And then you have, as Ken just mentioned, you have Cameron Crowe's mom as one of the divorcees in the group at the end. You also have from Alice in Chains, when Jerry goes to the Kinkos to have his manifesto / mission statement published, Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains is the Kinkos worker. And then a really good friend of Cameron Crowe's, Eric Stoltz, makes his appearance as Jerry's best friend.
Did you guys notice with that same scene with Eric Stoltz, you have Warren Moon show up at the bachelor party?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Warren Moon is there? Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
And then you also have Drew Bledsoe in the movies, Troy Aikman later on.
Yep.
One of the fun facts about this movie is I was kind of reading up on it. One of the things that Cameron Crowe did want was authenticity. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he did to make sure that this movie was authentic for the football scenes is he went out and he recruited some ex-NFL players, some college players, and a lot of players that used to play in the Canadian Football League. And he made these games and these hits and these scenes as realistic as he could. And I did think that the football scenes in the movie were done very well.
I agree.
Well, since you're talking about authentic, though, and I know Ted hates it when I do this. Here's the problem with him being a sports agent. Sports agents focus on one sport. They don't go all over the place. So he can't be looking at hockey players and football players because they have to know those contracts inside and out. And then the other one is, could Jerry's clients all go with him anyway? They have a contract with the company. They don't have a contract probably with Jerry by themselves.
Let me just stop you real quick. At the very end with the scene with Troy Aikman, you have Katarina Witt is there, yep. And she was one of his clients too. And if you notice when they're going through the list of all of his clients and he's trying to get them on the phone, Katarina was one of his clients. And she ends up, in that particular scene there at the end of the movie, it seems like that she's come back to him.
Is she the one that was crying?
No. Katarina Witt was an Olympic gold medalist in ADH, German. Figure skating. Yeah.
I would have loved to know who the lady was with the fake cry. I would have stayed with you, Jerry, but we're in the, I don't know, was it Adidas or some type of like...
It was a toy. It was Toyota, wasn't it?
Bob Sugar goes, "Why are you crying?" And then he starts laughing because he realizes that she was faking for Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Last interesting fact, Reebok paid money for an ad of theirs to be in the movie. But instead of Cameron Crowe including it in the movie, he has Rod Tidwell rip on Reebok. And then later on, showed the TV version of it. They added that Reebok ad back in.
Did they? Okay, that's one of my pet peeves is edited movies for television. Oh, if there's something on TNT or one of the cable stations, it's a movie, I won't even watch it.
It is.
Won't even do it.
It's unwatchable.
I can't do it. I can't.
Crazy.
And I know Ted's stance on product placement.
Yeah, I kind of liked it when he said F Reebok. That's good. But, this is a situation where, because you're dealing with a sports agent, had there been something, it wouldn't have been out of control. Cameron kind of poked fun at product placement by saying F Reebok, and Rod was in a waterbed commercial, and then the local car commercial with the camel. He kind of poked fun at the whole.
Which I heard the camel actually attacked them.
Yeah, I did read that as well. That's pretty funny.
Well, now that we're done with errors and omissions, why don't we give our final thoughts?
All right, I sure will. So my letter grade for this movie, I'm going to give it a solid B. The reason that I give it a solid B is because I personally like the movie. I do get lost in the story of it. I am kind of a bit of a sap when it comes to the romantic comedy portion of it, but it's an overall fun movie. There's really very few things that I don't care for in the movie, and I think I've really articulated that as far as what I thought was wrong with it. In closing, I definitely would highly recommend. I think the movie is highly rewatchable. I think it was a very good movie for the time, and I think it still stands up. I like it. I have watched it numerous times here recently.
I have to agree with Ted. I think this is a solid B movie, maybe a borderline B plus on occasion, but I would say it's a solid B. I too also watched this movie recently, again, obviously for the review. I had not seen the movie in a couple years, so it was really fun rewatching it again. And I also thought that it was very enjoyable to watch. There's not a lot of things I would change in the movie. Obviously, I did want to see it more go away from a chick flick and more into a bromance scene, if you will, more action, more kind of rock music, more football action. But overall, as a chick flick and with the phenomenal lineup that's in this movie, it is highly watchable. I highly recommend it. I think it's a great movie for anyone who likes sports movies, anyone who likes bromances, romances, chick flicks. It's a great movie for date night. It's a great movie. And I will admit, you guys did change me. I think after listening to your critiques, I think I would agree with you more. It does hold up better today. You made some good points, and I think it does hold up a lot better than I made it out to be originally.
I agree with you guys as far as some of the pros here. I'm going to go with a letter grade of a B plus. So I'm going a little bit higher than both of you. It's just a fun movie. They're having fun. The relationship between Rod and Jerry is fun to watch. Every time that they're interacting with each other, it's fun. As you said, bromance. It's a fun bromance to watch. And it's wonderful to see how the relationship progresses throughout the movie. Same with Dorothy and Jerry. I do think the relationship does progress. It just doesn't have that same progression as Rod and Jerry's. I love the supporting cast. We didn't talk enough about Bonnie Hunt here. She did a great job of playing the sister. She even says to Jerry, "I'm the disapproving sister." And she's fun. Bonnie Hunt is fun in anything she does. The reason why I wouldn't give this movie an A or A minus is the length. If you trimmed it down 30 minutes, I might have been able to even squeeze in an A minus into this movie, but the movie is a tad too long for the subject matter, but I did really enjoy it. So that's it for our Cameron Crowe double feature, Almost Famous, Jerry Maguire. Ted, what's coming up?
Well, what's coming up on our next double feature is going to be a Kevin Smith double feature. It's going to be Clerks and Mallrats.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! Looking forward to that.
Definitely looking forward to that.
Ted, where can people contact us if they want to reach us?
If you want to reach us on Twitter, we can be reached at Twitter at Drive-In Double Feature Podcast, or you can search for us at in_feature. That's FEATURE, and that's on Twitter. And you can give us a follow, and you can interact with us on our Twitter page, and we will be responding back.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate you being here. We thank you all for listening. We will now say our goodbyes. So goodbye.
See you at the movies.
Adios.
You had me at hello.